Now, you guys all know what the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro is about, but you've probably never heard or know much about RealMe and the X50 Pro. Now, RealMe, a phone manufacturer from Shenzhen, came out with this a few months ago, the RealMe X50 Pro. It's essentially a OnePlus 8, but a little bit better in my opinion. Here's why. The RealMe X50 Pro was released earlier in the year and didn't really get enough hype like OnePlus did with their 8 and 8 Pro, but it's gotten quite a few software updates that improve the overall stability, software experience, and camera performance. Now, just as a quick rundown on its specs, the X50 Pro rocks the latest Snapdragon 865 processor, 12 gigs of RAM, and 256 gigs of storage. The X50 Pro also features a 6.4-inch 1080p AMOLED display that features a 90Hz refresh rate that looks really good. It's not super vibrant or saturated like some Samsung phones, but it gets bright, and you can also change the color mode and color temperature in the settings, which is really helpful because I prefer a much warmer looking display. The display is also not rounded off like most flagships nowadays, so I gotta give props to RealMe for giving us a flat display. It's much easier to hold this phone and there's less accidental touches, so that's really nice. Now, under that display, there's an optical fingerprint reader, and it's actually one of the fastest ones I've used in a while. It might actually be faster than the ones on the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro, but don't quote me on that, it just seems faster for whatever reason. And speaking of fast, performance is really solid on this phone. Everything is super zippy thanks to that Snapdragon 865 processor, but I can definitely tell the difference between a 90Hz display versus a display with 120Hz refresh rate. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a super fast phone, but I do miss that 120Hz refresh rate from my OnePlus 8 Pro. Now, the X50 Pro also packs stereo speakers, so one front-firing speaker at the top and one at the bottom. It also features Dolby Atmos, so you're getting really good sound quality out of this device. Watching YouTube videos, blasting music from Spotify, or playing games, it all sounds really good. Now, I compared it to my OnePlus 8 Pro, and the sound quality is almost identical, so big props to RealMe for not skimping on speakers. The Superdart charging on this phone is probably the most interesting and one of the best features of this phone. This charging brick, which is included in the box by the way, will apparently charge your X50 Pro to 100% in a little over half an hour, which is really incredible. Now, I did try this out. I charged my phone from 20% and I kid you not, I came back 15 minutes later and I was already at 80+% battery, which is ridiculous. Since this phone doesn't have wireless charging capabilities, this is a really solid solution that I appreciate. Now, yes, having wireless charging would have been awesome, but plugging my phone in for 15 minutes or so is not a bad trade-off, and I can keep using the phone afterwards. Now, unlike any of the OnePlus devices, the RealMe X50 Pro is packing dual front-facing cameras, one 32-megapixel wide camera, and another 8-megapixel ultra-wide camera. The regular front-facing camera actually looks really good and doesn't smooth out your skin too much even with effects turned off. Now, the ultra-wide on the other hand still looks like any other ultra-wide camera. It's a little bit muddy and the colors aren't as good, but it's usable. Now, as for the back cameras, there's a 64-megapixel wide lens, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide lens, a 12-megapixel 2x telephoto lens, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. Shots from the X50 Pro are really solid. I noticed that it's a little bit aggressive on the software sharpening front like the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro, but colors are accurate, shadows aren't too crushed, highlights aren't super blown out in any of the photos I've taken during the day. Now, low light on the other hand is decent. It could be better. It's not going to wow you in terms of photo quality, but there is noticeable noise in the darker areas, and some parts of the images tend to look a little bit muddy as well. Overall though, it's a really good camera, and I think it's better than the OnePlus 8, but still not up to par with the Pixel 4, Galaxy S20 Ultra, or the OnePlus 8 Pro. So yeah, that's the RealMe X50 Pro. It's a really good smartphone that competes with a lot of flagships we've seen over the last several months. It has flagship specs, good sets of cameras, blazing fast performance and charging, and it's cheaper than the OnePlus 8. So if I were to choose between the two, I'd pick up the X50 Pro. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see a video on the RealMe 6 Pro, let me know in the comments down below, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.